This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium.
Episode 59, Prelim Map Analysis.
Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson. Hunter, I didn't tell you I played a game the other day. It was a good one. I won as the Gobblers of Turkmenistan.
Wait, what?
Had an early game. Squash casserole. Took the alpha wormhole with that, and really just ended stuffed and bloated. And then it was a quick jaunt to
how
the
was your
sleepy time.
how was your alpha wormhole after the
Stuffed and bloated?
Your alpha wormhole was stuffed and bloated?
I had a stuffed and bloated a-hole.
How? Right, because it was Thanksgiving. Yeah.
I've been eating Thanksgiving food for 3 days now. I have had nothing but turkey, save for the occasional cinnamon roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dying. Dying.
I had that classic like Friendsgiving moment. Because my family doesn't live in Portland, but all my friends, we showed up at this place where my friend was hosting, and the turkey was still in the oven, and that was it was just that classic moment of like, oh wow, and then we just kind of like waited for a long time,
then, huh? Yeah. Did you miss my wife and I not being there to make you a delicious Thanksgiving meal?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, your guys' cooking would have been a lot better than my friend Steven's.
I hope Steven. I know Steven doesn't.
Steven does not listen, and even if he did, whatever.
He wouldn't care. Well,
yeah. What are we doing today?
We have a weird episode today.
I'm so sleepy from all that food I ate.
I genuinely am sleepy. We're on this episode was a little bit more on Hunter's schedule, so I'm a sleepy man.
Yeah,
today.
And I'm ready to go.
Yeah, Hunter's ready to go, and I'm ready for bedtime. But no, we are gonna talk. Okay, this is conceptually actually I think a little bit weird. We want to talk about the map that we're going to use. We're going to use a map.
Right.
And it's going to be a pre-made map that we made. And we want to talk about it, but obviously it's a visual thing. So we're going to do two things. It is an image, but we're going to post an image of it, with the Reddit post, and we'll post on the Discord and wherever we can. I don't know. If I can include an image or link in the podcast description, I will try to do that. I'm going to make sure this map is out there. But we're also going to do our best to describe these maps as best as we can. We're going to go pie slice by pie slice, and just kind of break down like what is good about each slice, what we're hoping to accomplish with this map, and why we have it designed the way we have it designed,
right?
And what we hope it does for the tournament at large, given like knowing how our draft is going to play into things. Like I think we designed this map with the intent of like the draft is an important mechanic, and so you need to draft well so that you get the right position on this map that you want.
Right.
Because we're taking map making out of the equation, you now need to look at the map, study it, and decide how you want to properly draft. I think that's why so we should say this map is going to get used more than any other map in the tournament. There's 18 games in the preliminary round, and then there's only 3 games, and 1 game, right? So the other 3 maps of the tournament are going to be barely used at all. So really all of the information that we're going to gain from the tournament is from this map that we're going to talk about today.
Right. There's something special and specific about this map that I think we should talk about kind of right off the bat. And it has to do with the equidistant systems.
Right. And we brought this up a little bit like last week or maybe the week before. But there's no planets in equidistant systems. Not a single one. That was an active choice because there's really 2 things at play there. One is obviously I prefer maps where things are crazier.
Right.
I want maps to be these kind of like, oh, you have this, but you don't have this, so you got to weigh those options. But I mean, people tend to find things to complain about if like their slice obviously had a flaw that some other slice didn't have.
Right.
And so the main thing is we wanted all of the slices to be about as symmetrical as we could possibly make them, and the only way to really do that is to put all the junk in the equidistant systems. The reverse of that is if we didn't put all the junk in the equidistant systems, your pie slices would be broke, like absolutely broke, which is a fine way to play, like a fun way to play, make everyone fight for every penny they want to get. But we thought for a preliminary round, that wasn't quite the direction we wanted to go. We didn't want to make it so cutthroat in that first round. I'm actually more intrigued by everyone should be able to do decent on this map. And so ideally, the players that are the best are the ones that best know how to take advantage of other players, right? Like if just sitting there. So this is the map we played on last week, and Sardak won, and we kind of said part of the reason Sardak won is he was able to avoid any major conflicts with other players, and he got a lot of tech as a Sardak. That's partly due in part because of this map and how it allows you to set yourself up. So if you can keep yourself out of harm's way, you will do very well on this map.
For sure.
And we think that in the first round, that is a fine thing to reward, and just trust that in later rounds that will not be the case.
Right.
It's going to get a lot more cutthroat as we go. So we wanted to start with just kind of the most casual, and especially not casual, but the most. It's almost the most meta dependent, right? It's less about board positioning because everyone's got good stuff in their slices, and it is more about you're going to have to play against each other well,
right,
and meta against each other well, and see what victory points people are going for and call that out, and all those things come into play. So I'm excited about this map. I think it's going to be fun to commentate how people are using it. So I mean, we're gonna get 18 games on it, so that's we're gonna get a lot of info about what it's like to play on a map where everyone's sitting fairly comfortably in their slice.
Right. Yeah, I mean, all the slices, their resource and influence values, if we were to just read them out really quickly, starting from the 12 o'clock position and going clockwise, is 7, 6, 7, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 7, 8. They are so close to being perfectly symmetrical, basically.
Right. And all of that totals to either 15 or 14 total, like whatever you want to call
resource
it,
and
amount of things.
Yeah.
The only exception to that is the top one, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So Hunter, do you want to start diving in, or is there any other broad stroke things to kind of say about like the general map theme and things to say generally about the map?
One clever thing I would like to point out is that none of the slices have 4 of the same planet types within the slice.
Right.
That, of course, that's like kind of a no duh type thing. However, most maps, it's kind of impossible to make it competitive for everyone. Like most of the time in a slice, you're not going to have much of a shot at getting the control planet type objectives. And what we've done is kind of every other slice has a good shot and at one specific type. Meaning that if you're not sitting in that space, you need to prevent your neighbors from taking that objective from you. And you will probably have to do a little more to get that from them.
Right.
But the every other approach of it, I feel like, is what makes it fair. The fact that the neighbors will have to check each other to make sure that stays even, basically.
Right. So I think we're going to take this slice by slice, and we're going to kind of break down the numbers real fast, but then we're going to talk about like what Hunter and I envision that slice being good with.
Yeah,
now,
kind of
players
our
in games
basically
are gonna, players I think are gonna end up in all sorts of different slices. It's not like everyone's gonna go for and end up in the position they want. If anything, it's part of an argument of how people should play against the drafting method, right? Is, I know this faction would do really well in the north position, so I need to block them. I'm going to take the north position because I can't let Soul take it or whatever, right? there's these kinds of considerations. We're going to get a little bit more into, my favorite thing about this map is I think it makes bad factions viable. As we saw a Muat and a Sardak do amazing on this map the other day. And that is partly due because of like some of the tech objective things and just some of the layouts. It gives factions that have a harder time, it gives them a chance in the early rounds. So we're going to break down the numbers and we're going to talk through which factions we think get a leg up from it, and then a little bit just of whatever else comes to mind in terms of why this pie slice is good or bad.
Right.
So we're going to start. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before we start, we're like, don't take everything we're about to say like too literally. We decided to go through the slices and just pick like we would take a faction and be like, this is probably the best slice for that specific faction. However, there are other viable ones too.
I mean, honestly, almost every faction is going to do fine in every spot. There's just certain spots where it's like, ooh, that's really gonna, fill your gaps, or it's gonna, help save you or whatever. With the good factions are going to do good in every single slice.
Right.
There isn't we're definitely going to more lean into talking about like, how does a bad faction use this slice to get ahead?
Right. And kind of before we didn't really force ourselves to say something about every single faction. So there were about 5 that we were like, they're probably just good at any of these, and there's not really a specific slice where we could see something notable. Yeah. And those ended up being Barony, L1, Nalu, Sol, and Jolnar.
Which I feel pretty good about.
Yeah,
those 5 that are like left out.
Those are all great factions, and they're gonna play great in any of these slices, and I wouldn't be too worried about that.
You know what? I'm also noticing Isarl. Isarl's not on that list.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Isarl we kind of just threw slice as well, because I mean they're all pretty even point wise. I guess the only thing with Isarl is sometimes they like a green skip, but that's just sometimes.
Right. So let's dig in. Let's start with this top one. And again, if you are listening to this episode, I will have put a link to a picture of this map that you can look at if you want to look at it while you're listening. I know a lot of people, though, listen in the car. So again, we're going to do our best to kind of visualize this for you. But if you want to look at the map, it'll be in the Reddit post. It'll be on the Discord. It should be in the podcast description. So hopefully you have access to that link somewhere. If not, hit me up on Facebook. I will send it to you directly. So the first one we're going to call, we're calling this slice the Little and Tight.
Yeah, this is the 12 o'clock slice.
We had it called Small and Tight at first. The reason it's called Small and Tight or Little and Tight is because this has got the least amount of value out of all of the pie slices. It is a 7/6, which means 7 resources and 6 influence within the slice. And so that totals up to 13. Every other slice has either 14 or 15. So this one got kind of the short end of the stick. So you would think it is the worst slice. But here's how we laid it out. Every single slice is built essentially the same way, which is the position to the left of the home system, or to the if we're going counterclockwise, I don't know how to describe this. Depends on how you're looking at each slice. Regardless, if you're sitting there looking at the board, the tile to your right is always empty. Sometimes it's got an alpha wormhole or a beta wormhole in the empty system, but it is always empty. Then the systems on your way to Mechatol Rex are always planets, and then the system to the left of your home system is always a planet.
Right.
So in this one, you've got your empty. To your left, you've got Case and Raron, a 1/2 and a 0/3. Then you've got Abyss Freya, the 3/0 and the 2/0. That's the really, really rich hazardous planets. Then you've got Tarman on the way adjacent to Mechatol Rex as a 1/1 with a green skip.
Yeah.
So all total, that's 7/6, and this one has the best start of the game. What I mean by that is this has the most value immediately adjacent to your home system. Mm-hmm. It's actually tied with another system, but the argument we make beyond that is it actually has the best breakdown of those resources.
Right.
Because this one, because it's a Biz Freya, it means it's a 3/0 or a 2/0. You're not using that as influence ever. It's always going to be resources.
Right.
And then Case and Raron, a 0/3 and a 1/2, is basically always going to be used as influence. So you have kind of this perfect balance of like, I can use these planets as resources and these planets as influence. And some players, I don't know, maybe won't prefer that, but I like having planets like that. I don't like having 2/2 planets.
Right.
I think that's really annoying to have because it feels like you're burning 2 resources when you use it for influence, and vice versa. So having all one or the other in each planet, I think has a lot of value to it and means you have access to some really good starting positions. I mean, if you take Cason Raron Abyss Freya in your first turn, you just gained 6 resources that you can use and 5 influence right away.
I also want to point out that, especially due to a case basically that you're going to make later, Matt, there might be a little more than average diplomacy round 1 play on this map.
Right. Yeah.
And because of that, and also like this slice actually maybe even you could make a case for might add to that. The fact that Abyss Freya is neighboring your home system means that if somebody does go for that diplomacy play, you know where to be, basically. Where to try and get to.
Diplo is definitely worth 5 resources in this pie slice. And that's not nothing. If you are a last pick faction, if you're picking 6th, sometimes Diplo becomes a viable thing if it's getting you 5 resources.
Right.
Depends on what other people are doing, and we're going to see that there's another pie slice that also gets 5 resources. So I don't know. That's your call to make. But the other reason this one is good for those factions that struggle a little bit early and need that extra money is it's got a supernova in one of the equidistant systems to it. If you're looking at the table, the left equidistant is a supernova, which means you kind of have this nice little wall between you and one of your neighbors. That's why this is our favorite slice for the Arborec.
Right.
I'll go ahead and throw that one out there right now. It's got a green skip, which is good to get Latani 2 or Bioplasmosis when you need it. It's got a lot of money, and you've got one side decently blocked off from an early aggressor, which people like to be aggressive on Arborec early.
Right.
So if you can, limit that by 50%, that's pretty good for Arborec.
I think also your other neighbor. Having to only deal with one neighbor as Arborec is wonderful. And the fact that your other neighbor is just mere empty space. I mean, obviously, if it was a nebula, that would be best, but that would also make this like a crazy defensive slice. But the fact that it's just an empty, it's not like an asteroid field where things might get wily. It feels like the most possibly easier to negotiate border.
Right.
Than some of these others. So you've got one border that's basically like, well, that's going to be a slow process with the supernova. And the other border is just empty space. So you kind of have to figure it out. But I think slow start races are going to have a lot easier time with this slice. We mentioned Arborec. I think you could make an argument. I think it's just both on our minds because of how well he utilized it. But Sardak played wonderfully in this role.
Yeah. Well, and I also like it for Sardak because of, almost exclusively because of that green skip.
Yeah.
You have Tarman on the way to Mechatol Rex, so Sardak with upgraded infantry is a killer move. And we didn't see, I don't remember if we saw our Sardak go for that. Maybe he got it later, but you could sprint right for infantry too using Tarman and be in a really good position. I pointed out at one point too, I actually kind of like this slice for Nalu. Specifically, but it's the same argument for Sardak or anyone who's trying to pump a bunch of stuff out. I mean, if you get that green skip, you're pumping out ground force 2s, and you have Abyss Freya, you could put a space dock on Abyss and Freya. That's 9 production. Oof. You can pump out 9 ground forces per round with a single activation.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. So I like this slice for those ones that want to just pump out big stacks of fighters or ground forces.
Yeah.
I think you can do a lot there.
Yeah. What about planet type wise? This is not the best slice for those objectives.
No, it's not. It's 2 red, 2 industrial, 2 hazardous, and 1 cultural. And your access to getting like a 4th of anything is, I would say, the trickiest out of every single slice.
Yeah.
Your best options are you've got a neighbor with some industrials that you could pick off.
And hazardous too. I mean, you could go either way. You also have neighboring Vefet too, which is a hazardous. So that might you could maybe go that direction, and that would be your third, and then you still got to get a 4th.
Certainly worth noting. Yeah, it is worth noting that this is one of the harder ones to do it with, though.
Right, but they're all pretty difficult with that.
Yeah.
There's only 1 or 2 slices that I would say have an easier time.
Right. I will say, too, this one maybe also has the worst odds of getting triple tech skips.
Right.
Because one of your neighbors has a tech skip very far away from you. Now, your other neighbor has both tech skips close to you. So, I don't know. It kind of goes back and forth. That one just comes down to it depends on who actually is sitting in those slices.
Right.
So, I can't make that judgment call. But I would say with those two control objectives, this one is in a little bit of a little bit harder spot than some of the other slices.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just like, it's probably the most defensive slice that we've got.
And on this map, that has a lot of value, right? As we saw with Sardak. You don't necessarily have to go all over the place. If the objectives come out right, you're just going to sit pretty in your slice with a supernova block in your, one person's way, and like you might just do fine because you don't necessarily need to leave.
Right. I would say as long as the player in this slice focused on their diplomatic relations with the neighbor that they share empty space with, I think they could have a very good early game, and then it kind of who knows how that mid game is going to shake out. But I think the early game could be really fun.
Sure. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Our next slice in the 2:00 position or the northeast position, if you're looking at the photo, we're calling this the fast and cultured. The cultured part is pretty obvious. It's got 3 cultured planets just sitting right there in the slice. So you have pretty good access to that, and you've got lots of close cultural planets outside of your pie slice. So decent odds of getting the culture planet objectives, but fast because adjacent to your home system is a blue skip.
Right.
And it's Grawl. It's a good blue skip. It's attached to Centauri. That's worth it's a 1/3, so that's basically a command counter whenever you want it.
Right.
So, extra movement, extra activation per round. You've also got Resculon and Kornik, which is a 2/0 and a 1/2. To the right of your home system is the empty alpha wormhole. So that's another reason they're fast. Usually, the empty ends of wormholes we regard as the worst end. It's harder to defend. But on the flip side of that, if you have that blue skip and you get gravity drive, or if you're ghosts, you can really get some places by having access to that. And if you block it correctly, it might not be that bad. And then finally, on the way to Mechatol Rex, adjacent to Mechatol, is Vefut 2, which is a 2/2. So all in all, this is your 7/7 pie slice. It's basically as well-rounded as a pie slice gets numerically on this map.
Mm-hmm.
And we had kind of a hard time deciding like what this slice was best with, and just the blue skip alone is what pushed us into this idea of like, this is your mobile faction, this is your whoever wants to just kind of get out and go,
right? Which could be a lot of factions, really.
Exactly.
Anybody that could use a blue skip, which is, it's arguably the best skip. So
everyone can use a blue skip.
I think there are other things about it though that make it a really good ghost slice. The fact that you have the bad slide of the A wormhole, but you also can probably get to it faster than the person that owns Lodor or Quan, meaning you could pull off some pretty crazy shenanigans. Also, having that blue skip could allow you to get to something crazy quickly, like Light Wave Deflector, which would be completely insane for Ghost. I think there are probably a couple slices that I would say are pretty viable for Ghost. But I think I just like this one with the blue skip. Just seems to be the thing that kind of pushes it over for me. And also the fact that it is the best slice for control objectives, which Ghosts have the best likelihood of being able to pull those out very quickly and easily.
Yeah. The other one is the Clan of Sar, I think, does great here. A blue skip early isn't too bad for them. If you start with Animass, you can just skip straight. Usually you want gravity drive anyways, but being able to skip to Carrier 2 if you want it, or later on, like Hunter even said, skip to Light Wave. I think a blue skip is useful. Also, your left adjacent or your left equidistant system is an asteroid field, which as a Clan of Sar, that's always a good position to be in.
Right.
I don't think this is by and large the best slice ever for a Clan of Sar, but on this map, I think it's one of the better ones you can have access to.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a helpful one to kind of burn through.
I think what makes it good for Sar is that this slice is on the other side of that supernova. So it gets that same benefit of being kind of defensive. And then if you're Sar, then you've got an asteroid field to do some really horrible shenanigans on your other neighbor. So So yeah, if we kind of
protected on one side and gutting the other person.
Right, which for every other faction besides SAR, the asteroid field is just going to be a liability, just something that people are going to be able to jump across to possibly mess with your stuff. So that's why I think SAR actually might even be the best for this slice.
Right. And one other consideration, but we're going to have a bigger one later, but we wanted to throw Muwat in here because we advocate Muwat with a blue skip.
Right.
And so this is a fine spot for a Muwat to be in.
There is a much better slot.
There's a way
on.
better spot. So we'll talk about that. And if you listen to last week's episode, you know a little bit already.
Right.
But this is a perfectly fine Muwat position as well. So let's move on, because that one's harder to talk about. The rest of the slices from here on out, I think, get much more interesting.
Pretty specific, yeah.
So this next one we're calling big and tight. So we had little and tight, and that was our 7-6. So this is our 8-6 slice. To your right, you have an empty slice, or an empty system. To your left, you've got Techeron and Torcan. That's a 2-0 and a 0-3. Again, nice, evenly balanced numbers. Nothing, no 2 2s or whatever. Then you have New Albion and Starpoint, which is a 1-1 green tech skip and a 3-1. And then on the route to Mechatol Rex, you've got Quan with the beta wormhole, and that's a 2-1.
Right. And this is the 5 o'clock, basically.
This is like your 4 or 5 o'clock position, and it is effectively the same. It's a green tech skip, just like the little and tight. It's actually almost the same value of planet traits.
Right.
It is also 2 hazardous, but instead of 2 industrial, it's 2 cultural, and 1 industrial.
Right.
But it just comes with 1 more resource and that same sort of balanced approach to the resources. I love having a 0-3. Torcan and Raron are some of my favorite systems or favorite planets in the game. Having just a free command counter is always amazing. And I love New Albion so much, especially as Mentak. This is my Mentak dream slice. Now, not everybody advocates the ridiculous round 1 stuff I like to do with Mentak, but it really is my favorite play in the entire game is to get round 1 Cruiser 2, and New Albion is the best system to do that with.
Right. Yeah,
to point it out, that play is you take New Albion, you rely on diplomacy, or you take diplomacy yourself. I get that that's controversial, whatever, but you refresh for the green skip. You're also gaining 3 resources out of that, and then you use tech to flip New Albion, get Cruiser 2. You start with 2 cruisers. You can send those Cruiser 2s to go invade more planets.
Right.
So you can have a really, really killer start if you turn things around right for yourself.
Yeah, like a really scary start, actually. We also have Necro written here, but I'm not sure I remember why, if I'm being honest.
The argument for Necro was it's the most resources out of it. It's tied for most resources.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And you don't need the influence. So it being 6 in influence, which is the least amount of influence you can have in a slice, we basically said Necro is fine here because they don't care about the lack of influence.
Right.
I would say it is a little bit unfortunate that one of those influences is just a 0-3. So you basically have a planet.
That is useless.
It's not useless though, because you are still going to use the secondary of leadership.
Right.
It's just that's an extra command counter you're banking even more command counters. But I like having Techeron and Quan, so a 2-0 and a 2-1, so that you can do the secondary of tech and have effectively the most efficient path to getting some more command counters if you like to do the technology command counter play as Necro, which I do.
Right.
So it's just generally a decent slice. The last one was that so your right equidistant is that asteroid field we were just talking about, and your left equidistant is a gravity rift, which sometimes Necro just has to make Hail Mary passes to get some tech.
That's true.
So it's not bad to just send a cruiser through the rift to try to hit something and blow it up. It's a perfectly valid approach if you're desperate for 1 more tech to finalize an objective or something.
That makes sense. Yeah,
it's not like it's not like a choice slice for Necro, but out of everything, when we had all of our list of factions over here of ones we hadn't accounted for yet, Necro was on the list, and this seemed like the best Necro slice out of all of them.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of all we were really basing that on.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I am excited about our next slice. It is, I think, I think it's the wildest one, even more wild than the
last one
the crazy one that we'll do. But yeah, and I feel like this slice, Matt, is I think this is your masterwork. This is the best slice.
What's funny about some of these slices is I made the first draft at this map, and then we've kind of been toying with it ever since. But I realized after the fact that I made a couple slices that are like perfect for some factions, and I did not mean to do that.
Right.
I did not mean to. These next 3 slices are literally like, if I were to say I want all of these things in this faction slice, that's what these slices are. So let's quit beating around the bush. This is Daran's slice.
This is the 6 o'clock.
For those of you,
the 6 o'clock.
This is 6 o'clock, and for those of you who don't know who Daran is the leader of the Yin Brotherhood. This is your Yin slice, folks. So let me break it down. To your right is an empty system, just like everybody else. To your left is Melon Zobat, which is a 0-2 and a 3-1 planet. Then you have Arnor Lore, which is a 2-1 and a 1-2. And then you have Wellen, which is a 1-2 and a yellow tech skip. If you've been listening to us recently, you know that we just got shown how amazing having a yellow tech skip as Yin is, because getting early transit diodes is just like the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yep.
And nothing is better for Yin than planets with 2 influence and very little resources, because you want to use Indoctrination, their ability where you spend 2 influence to convert a ground force. And this pie slice has 3: Melon 0-2, Lore 1-2, and Wellen 1-2. So you have tons of planets that you can use to burn on Indoctrination throughout the game. That way you don't have to spend trade goods, or you don't have to spend some 2-2 planet just to, you're not burning 2 resources just to indoctrinate. Melon is the perfect Melon and Dalbutha are the 2 planets in the game that are like designed for indoctrination.
Right.
Our current layout of this whole system doesn't even have Dalbutha in it, so this is your only option for a 0-2.
Right.
And beyond that, it's just great. I mean, yellow tech skip 3-0 or 1-2s, and a decent amount of resources outside of that. It's just, I don't know, I love it. The last major consideration for the Yin Brotherhood being amazing in this slice is your right equidistant is the Gravity Rift, and you can do some stupid shenanigans with the Van Haug, sending it through a Gravity Rift. It blows up in the even if you don't get through the Gravity Rift, technically the ruling as of today, and there's actually some evidence that this might change. Dane may decide to later change his mind, but for now, if the Van Haug blows up in the Gravity Rift, it blows up in the destination system. So you can effectively send your Van Haug through the Gravity Rift into Starpoint New Albion and blow up everything sitting in front of your neighbor's home planet.
Which will happen. We will see that.
Which will definitely happen. Oh, come on. There's going to be Yins in this tournament, and they are going to find their way to this slice. Another consideration for this one, though, is this actually isn't a terrible Winnu slice.
Right.
Hunter, do you want to break that down?
Sure. So you want the clear path to Mechatol, which every slice has. But what's notable about this slice is that it has a yellow skip on the way to Mechatol Rex.
Right.
The only other yellow skip is in another slice, and it is not on the path to Mechatol. So Winnu, even without their mobility of their great fleet, is still going to be able to make the stop at Arnor Lore and then Wellen, and then come into Mechatol with the yellow skip, which is ideal for a hegemonic.
Right. Yeah, and the other consideration there too is your left equidistant is a nebula, which means kind of same thing as our Arborec top slice argument was you need a little bit of protection, and that nebula certainly helps slow anything down. The only way people are getting to you are around the backside, and that they're just not going to get a straight shot to your home system as easily.
Right. I do still think like Winnu is I think it's just a difficult situation. Like the idea of a Winnu having to not...
This doesn't save Winnu.
Right.
This doesn't make Winnu a great faction.
Right.
But it is certainly your best position you could be in. If I were Winnu, this is the slice I would pick every single time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's even an argument for that Gravity Rift helping you because, someone might get cheeky and decide they want to send something through the Gravity Rift to blow up your stuff. And hey, you got a 30% chance of that attack not making it.
Right. Yeah, gravity rifts are kind of they're a weird gambit defensively or offensively. It's hard to decide what they are for people, so it just depends. Let's do that next one. This one is like this one. I don't even know if I agree. Like this one is the weirdest one to me.
Well, this is the one that I played extra in, and this is what we're calling the dangerous Diplo slice. This is bottom left in the 8 o'clock position. To your right is the empty side of the beta wormhole. To your left is Saudor, a 2/2. Right in front of your home system is Barraglerta 4, the best system in the game. That's a 3/1 and a 2/3. And then you have Thibba on your way to Mechatol Rex, which is a 1/1 with a blue tech skip. So the reason this is a dangerous Diplo slice is you can Diplo Barraglerta 4, and that's very good. I mean, it's effectively as good as a Biz Freya, right? That's why we talked about it earlier with the little and tight pie slice. But I love this slice because also the blue tech skip. This is my favorite extra slice,
right?
Because I would like to Diplo round 1 as extra. I'm not opposed to Diploing. The reason I want to Diplo as extra round 1 is I want to get 5 resources from Barraglerta 4. I want a piece of Chords Thibba right next to Mechatol Rex. Then next round, I want to put a space stack on Thibba and build my flagship out of it immediately. So I have a flagship parked next to Mechatol Rex, blocking anyone from hopefully taking Mechatol Rex. And I have that blue tech skip, so I can jump straight to Gravity Drive so that my flagship now has movement 2 whenever I need it to.
Right.
If I need to jump my flagship somewhere new, it's not going too slow. And you continue to have Barraglerta 4. You've also got the Nebula protecting you, just like the bottom slice had. To your left, Equidistant is an asteroid field, which isn't as ideal, but I just think it's a good slice for anyone who decides they want to pull the trigger on a Diplo play round 1.
Right. Ooh, and actually something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the 6 o'clock slice, the Daran slice, is that is another slice that has an easy time getting the industrial planet types. So we're sticking with the every other, and so the first one was cultural. This one, the 6 o'clock is industrial. And then for the dangerous Diplo slice, it's not really a great situation planet type wise.
You're 2 hazardous and 2 industrial, and there's stuff in range for both, but it is certainly a harder go.
Right, because you could take 2 more industrial from one of your neighbors, but it's the defensive neighbor, the one with the nebula in the way.
Exactly.
And then for your other neighbor, you could get either the 2 industrial or 2 hazardous from them, but it's 2 systems that you have to take from them basically. So, which is crazy.
In our game, what I actually ended up doing is my goal was to go for hazardous because you've got Vefet 2 just on the other side of Mechatol Rex.
Right.
And then your neighbor on the weak, below the nebula has Zobat there. That's what I had been going for. But again, even that is still a bit of a stretch because you got to jump over Mechatol Rex to get there.
Yeah, that is difficult.
Or go through the beta wormhole. You can go through the beta through Quan to Vefet 2. But regardless, it is one of those slices that is a little bit harder to get the planet trait objectives.
Yeah.
But I mean, this slice is basically defined by the fact that Barraglerta 4 is in it. And this always happens if you're trying to make a galaxy. If you put Barraglerta 4 in a pie slice, you almost never have room for any more planets,
right?
Because of how much that brings to the table,
right?
So yeah, your only 3 other planet, or your only 2 other planets are a 2/2 and a 1/1. So it really is all about Barraglerta 4, which means this pie slice becomes kind of about defending Barraglerta 4 and using Barraglerta 4 wisely to branch out and get more stuff, which is why I don't think it's a terrible thing to Diplo at round 1, because if you need to just jumpstart, if you just use Barraglerta 4 just to build more stuff in your home system so that you can continue to defend and then take stuff from your neighbors, maybe that's what you have to do. And I think having Barraglerta 4 in your home slice kind of forces that upon you.
I think what's really crazy about this whole map in general is that it is making like Diplo we're going to see more of it than normal, just because all of the best system tiles are neighboring home systems. Like, So that was another
intended factor of this one is the best 6, what everyone calls the best 6 slices. I think sometimes Arnor Lore or like Cornique Resculon gets left out of that. I would say Cornique Resculon is the weakest one I'm referring to here. But the best 5 planet systems are directly in front of home slices.
Right.
So yeah, everyone has very good access to the best systems in the game.
Right.
So what Hunter's saying is, yeah, there's plenty of people who may decide to Diplo that right away.
Right.
Let's talk about the fun slice.
Yeah,
the best
this
slice
one is crazy.
In the whole thing. We call this the slice of the Gashly because, well, it's the War Sun slice. It's the Muat slice.
Right.
So to your right is an empty system. This is the 10 o'clock position, by the way. So this is the one neighboring our Dangerous Diplo and our Little and Tight. You've got an empty system to your right. You've got Lazar Saculag to your left, which is a 1-0 with a yellow tech skip and a 2-1. Directly in front of you is RNA Mir, which is a 1-2 and a 0-4 with a red tech skip. And then you've got Lodor, which is the Alpha Wormhole with a 3-1 planet on the way to Mechatol Rex. This one's similar to the Barraglerta 4. When you put RNA Mir in a slice, it becomes defined by that. So all of your influence is in that, and all of the resources had to be kind of thrown into your other 2 planet tiles. But the big thing to point out here is it's got a red tech skip and a yellow tech skip. This is the only slice at the table that has 2 tech skips in it, and we kind of decided to make a point to make it red and yellow because we want to see more War Suns. And we certainly
have already seen it.
Muat. Yeah,
it's already been a thing. Yeah. So Muat, obviously, it gets a lot out of this slice. To the point where, I don't know, maybe the meta is going to shift over the course of the tournament, and people are going to be like, no, pick Muat. Muat's good. Which, that would just be so wild to me.
It is wild, but it is true. Like, it genuinely, I think it is true, because Muat can turn 2, have 3 movement wars. So this is why when we earlier said Muat is good and fast and cultured because of the blue tech skip, we only meant kind of, because Muat is amazing.
Just if you can't get that slice, which,
if you can't get this one, there's your backup.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, Dangerous Diplo isn't a horrible backup for Muat either.
That's true.
Right? I mean, that's some more resources, whatever. But this is like the one we love for Muat because you take those 2 systems, round 2, you get Prototype War Sun 2, and suddenly your War Suns can just go wherever.
Right.
In our game, Muat got lucky too because Hunter was Hakan and was very willing to trade with him. So hopefully you play that factor up too. You know, you got to get your money elsewhere, and Muat has 4 commodities. So, you know, you do what you can here. But I love this because I want to see War Suns be decently viable, and this slice is certainly going to make at least one player at every table consider it. I mean, when you have a red and a yellow, if you are any faction with a red in your starting tech, you're already considering it, right?
Yep,
if you are Arborek with Majin, all you have to do is get plasma scoring, and next round you can have War Sun too. Or, I mean, War Suns. If you are Mentak, you're almost there.
Right.
So it's just like, I can't wait to see what happens in this slice.
Yeah,
you had a really fun consideration too for this.
Oh, yeah. I actually think this would be a cool Hakan slice. They obviously don't need, like, there used to be, I feel like in TI3, more of a reputation for Hakan going War Sun, and I think we could see that again in this slice. Not that they need the yellow skip to get to War Sun. They don't. No. The red skip is obviously very helpful, but the yellow skip is still helpful to Hakan if they're trying to go after Quantum Data Hub node, which I think we will see a lot of people shooting for that. I feel like I shoot for that less than everybody else, but it's there, and I think there's a good chance we'll see it. And yeah, this slice is nuts. Errata Mir is just kind of the coolest system to me.
Well, that's the other big consideration too, is Hakan has 6 commodities. They make their money elsewhere. So all you really need is something that's going to pump command counters into your abilities. So having RNM Mir as that option is great. And you also said this, Hunter, I think you kind of like Hakan when they get to do Mechatol plays. So if you can take RNM Mir and then continue on your way and have your 6 influence ready to go to take Mechatol. That's 12 influence now that you've banked, and all of your money gets to go towards units and tech. Because you're getting 4 command counters per round, guaranteed.
It honestly, any faction that is gonna have a problem with command counters or wants to be way ahead on command counters could take this slice and be like, no, that's my logic. I don't care about the tech skips. I just want.
This is honestly, this is another great ghost slice.
I
mean, there's a lot of slices I can say ghosts are good with, but like a red and a yellow to just go ahead and get PDS2 right away or get whatever you want. Get dimensional splicer right away. You've got an alpha there. You put a wormhole above RNA mirror. There's a lot that you can do in this slice, and I can't wait to see what all. I think every single game, I think we're going to see whoever is in this slice. Maybe they don't win, but they are always going to have the most fun plays.
Yeah.
That's how I feel it's going to break down.
Yeah. So I think, is there anything else we want to say about this map? I want a lot of feedback on this, by the way.
Yeah, I want feedback. I'll say this much. I don't think we're not making any major changes. This is more or less the way it's going to look. But if you see something on this map and you realize like, oh, this aspect is in some way broken, we'll consider those things. But beyond that, I would sort of consider this map pretty locked in to what is going to be in the tournament.
Right. I meant more, I want to hear your guys' take on the map, and that I want to hear your theory crafting to kind of add to the overall, because I just want people to be staring at this trying to figure out like what they want to do going into
That's our big goal. That's why we're doing it this way, why we wanted to just make a map beforehand and release it, is because that's the sort of tournament we wanted to host, is one where the factions are considered for it is, as we've said, it's perfectly viable, like in the Gen Con tournament, to have the competitive build. That's the way the rules were. It's the way the chef intended it, was for the competitive build.
Right.
And it makes for a different kind of game. And honestly, with this map in mind, this is the kind of map you tend to end up with. In a competitive build, right? Is people getting good pie slices and all the junk kind of gets put in out of the way places. But because we get to be a little bit more intentional, it means we get to make these interesting pie slices that people go for. They say, I want to make sure Arborek gets in this game so that I can put them in the slice of the Gashly, because I want to do Arborek with War Sons right away. That's like my goal. Mm-hmm. And I want to see that happen so badly. So please theory craft the crap out of this system, because I want to start seeing what people's ideas are, and I want to see kind of how that evolves then into the tournament, because I think the players, they're all people in the community, so I want to see them reading up on stuff and coming up with their own strategies based on all the input they get from everybody else. I think it's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Super excited. Are we ready to do some errata? Also, I mean, everybody should take a look at this map. Please look at it.
Yeah.
Bare minimum, and you look at the map.
Yeah. If you, especially if you plan to be paying attention to the tournament as we're doing it, which if you listen to this show, it's going to be a major feature of this show. So that's why we're already covering it so much these days, is because when the tournament is actually going on, it will be the talk of the town here at Space Cats Peace Turtles.
Right.
So, but let's go ahead and jump into the errata, Hunter.
Yeah. All right, welcome to Hunterstown, errata. Hunterstown. Welcome to Hunterstown. That's going to be
Hunter's erotica. Right,
no, my town. It's my town, and I'm the sheriff. The errata is from last week's episode, which was all about me. Which you guys didn't have a whole lot to say about me. You guys talked about all kinds of stuff, but you didn't talk about little old me as much as I would have liked. But everyone and their mom and dog and cat pointed out that last week we talked about Matt making a bad trade of his direct hit to me. He didn't realize it was bad at the time, and then he really could have used it back.
I did. I very begrudgingly made that trade and was like, I know this is going to bite me in the butt, but I have to do it.
And it did.
Immediately bought me in the butt.
Right, and everyone
bit me, bited me.
Everyone pointed out that Hakan couldn't trade the direct hit back to Extra because it was neither player's turn when Extra's home was invaded. That's true.
We got theory crafty for a second, and we weren't in the right headspace. So I started saying, "Oh man, I could have."
Right.
If I'd been thinking in the moment when I was getting attacked, I would have asked for my direct hit.
That was one of those silly ones where we played right, but we remembered wrong. Basically.
Yeah. Fair enough either way. Yeah, you cannot, it's important to note you cannot trade with people when it's not your turn.
Right. You have to be the active player.
So let's move on to Revan88's comment, which is, regarding the tournament, I'm very interested in the statistics of everything. Are there any plans to record the outcomes of each game in detail?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, you can't even imagine how badly I want to see spreadsheets made off of these games. I'm going to try to collect as much data as I can, but more importantly, our intent increasingly, I would say even, is to record every single game and post it, the entirety of the game, onto YouTube.
Right.
So even if I don't collect all the data people want, all the data should be available for everybody.
Yeah.
From this entire tournament. So ideally, we will be able to get a lot of cool stuff. Again, like we said in today's episode, 18 of the games are on one map. So I think that's going to be the most useful for some information. I mean, you have to take a lot of caveats of like, well, we're referring to this specific map. So it's not like we can say Muat is an amazing faction because Muat won 6 games out of 18. It's like,
right.
Well, they won 6 games out of 18 because they got Prototype Warsun 2 second round all the time.
Right.
But it's still going to give us some fun information that we get to compare within an isolated, set of experiences or whatever. So yes, we want to record a bunch of data and we want to see how a lot of things go. And I'm excited to see what all that looks like.
This next one's from Milty. This is a very interesting submission. Milty says that I think this is the interesting part about the meta self-balancing. You guys had tilted too hard to the Muat and Sardak are bad side, and that bit us in our butts, as is that's the phrase of the week. Yeah. So we lost pretty hard against Muat and Sardak player. We really just lost against the Sardak player, but the Muat played really well as well.
And the Muat was in the running. I mean, the Muat was at 9 points. In the end.
Yeah.
So both of them crushed it, and I agree, and this is why I'm excited for this tournament and for the way this map is designed and for the way this drafting mechanic works, is because I think it gives more opportunity for these less good factions to get in there, and then hopefully we see stuff like this where people are like, well, whatever, you got Sardak, we're going to totally discount you, and then because especially in this first round, you can sit and be kind of a sleeper cell on these pie slices. Like, you can do a lot of work by just staying in your pie slice. So I think we're going to see some interesting statistics out of these factions that we regard as not very good. And that we've kind of been lambasting for the past 6 months. I think we're going to see some better performances out of them than we've been giving them credit for.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think you're going to see the meta evolve as the tournament goes on. There's going to be a game where somebody does something crazy with Winnu or something, and then everybody's going to think oh, well, what about Winnu? And then, who knows?
Right. Chills on Hills Jensen says, and this is a question for Hunter. Listening to your playstyle, how do you feel about the Mentak coalition? Ambush removes a lot of randomness from combat, and someone who plays efficiently like you do can perhaps get a really good use out of pillage.
I like this recommendation. The problem is that I think I've only played Mentak twice at this point. And every time I've played Mentak, I have been too distracted. And I'm not going to make this mistake again, which I think I've said this before. But
sure.
I get distracted by the potential for PDS Mentak because I think it's just so weird that they are so well positioned to do it. And I just like it. I think it's cheeky. I think the idea of stealing your trade goods from very defensible positions where you can't touch me because of all my PDS is such a funny, great idea.
Right.
But, I have been super distracted by it. Next time I want to play straight up Mentak and go for Cruiser 2 like Matt always says to do and actually see how that goes.
Yeah. I want to see you do it. I want to see you play Yin for the same exact reasons.
Right.
Of us talking about you like to be in positions where you just have a solid foothold in a position and those are my planets now, and just we're not going to debate this.
Right.
Yin is super good at that. And so I want to see you kind of throw yourself into those positions more.
I do think here's something about Mentak that I've always thought, because I actually don't think that cruisers are good. I think cruisers are bad. But I think Mentac are the only. I think Ambush is the only ability that makes cruisers viable. Basically,
right.
That's a weird thing I just threw out there, but yeah, that's something that
you're about to get some errata for
I
next
know,
week.
I know, but I don't like cruisers. I don't.
This is a fun thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if we did this for mine, and so I want to now that we're set. Like, I want to see you play Mentac and Yin based off of my episode. Hunter, who do you think that I haven't played? Who should I play to fit my?
Who would I have you play? I want to see you play. Well, I want to see you play Muat. No, I don't want to see.
But that's just because you want me to suffer.
Yeah, I just want you to suffer. No, I want to see what you do with like factions like L1 and like that. I want to see hyper aggressive Matt. Actually, that's actually what I want to see. I want to see L1 and Barony. Although I've seen you play Barony plenty, but
I usually tank it with Barony,
right?
Because
I just think that there's
this distracted by
there's this weird thing that happens with you. I have this weird theory that you like playing very aggressively with the factions that aren't as well equipped to do it. Like it's odd because I feel like when you play the really aggressive factions,
I should play like Soul. Like I could be really aggressive with Soul and not just do the Mechatol thing, but like just take crap from people and hold it. Like, I can see that kind of stuff. And the same thing with Lizix of like, just go Harrow. Yeah. That's why I was so excited about Harrow from when we first started the podcast.
Right. And I've never seen you play L1. You've never played L1.
I think I've only played them once, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't. I don't know.
I don't think you have
L1.
I've never seen you do it, so I don't think you have.
Well, you play Mentac and I'll play L1 in the next game.
That sounds fun.
You'll crush me with your scary flag.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love that.
All right. I'm going to do the rundown. So you can follow us on Twitter at SpaceCatsPod for game updates and announcements, or you can follow us on Facebook for announcements. You can also ask me questions there. You can hit me up if you need to find the map that we're referring to in this episode, and I will send it to you. You can also see our posts on Reddit/r/Twilight Imperium for our episode discussions, as well as lots of other discussions that have been getting especially good recently. People have been just posting really good like brain burners and stuff like that. I've been super into the Reddit the past like 2 weeks. We have a Board Game Geek Guild. That's about all I got to say about that. SpaceCatsPeaceTurtles@gmail.com to submit us Play of the Weeks and This Imperium Life. These are stories from in-game moments of crazy things that happen. We especially want your salty stories about games that went way off the chain and maybe you got a little bit bent out of shape and
games that went
apologize to people
way off the chain.
I don't know. I'm terrible.
He's
with
a
words.
poet. He is a poet.
I want you to please check out our Patreon and consider contributing to it. You get lots of benefits for all the different tiers. You can play games with us. You can have episodes made about you or whatever you want to discuss. You can also get votes in on monthly episodes called the Galactic Council, etc., etc. It's a fun thing, and you can get most of those benefits through our Discord. There's lots of fun conversations going on, and that's also where we hit up all the people. In addition to on the Patreon website, we talk a lot on our separate Discord channels for all of our patrons.
Yeah.
Please rate us on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or Stitcher or any app because it helps increase visibility of the show and helps people know about Twilight Imperium and gives us all more people to play with.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm Hunter. I'm a comedian. I actually just put up a new YouTube video of me performing at Helium Comedy Club in Portland. So if you want to get on YouTube and type in Hunter Donaldson comedian, there should be one that says like Hunter at Helium 2018, which even I think it has like an old joke in it, but it also has me doing some pretty weird crowd work that was super fun. So check out that clip on YouTube. That's something you can all do. But those of you that live in Portland, Oregon, or are visiting Portland, Oregon, you can see me co-host a show called Earthquake Hurricane every Thursday at 8 o'clock. That happens at a coffee shop in Portland called Ford Food and Drink. Food, Ford and Drink might be a good new name. Built food tough. And on November 30th, I'll be performing with Don't Tell Comedy at a secret location. You'll have to message me for details. And no, I still don't know. They still haven't told me the secret yet.
That's great.
So hopefully they will tell me before somebody hits me up about it. Another thing I wanted to mention that is comedic and has to do with me and you is our spec script episode is coming out.
Is it coming
soon.
out?
I saw. So spec script is a podcast and live show in Portland where somebody writes like an episode of a TV show they have never seen, and then you do like a table read of that episode. It's really cool. And I wrote, and me and another comic named Kyle George wrote an episode of The Lone Ranger, and I had Matt do the table read with us. So you can hear me and Matt being funny together.
Unlike this show.
Unlike this show where, it's mostly bombing. But
actually to tease TI listeners, Hunter wrote the episode knowing that he was going to force me to be in it, and he just wanted me to talk in my like terrible Australian accent for like 30 minutes. So he wrote an Australian character to make me be. So that's what that is.
It's fun. It
really was good. Fun. I can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah, so that should be out this week, and we will probably have more details for you next week as far as where to download it and stuff. But yeah, so get excited for that. That'll be really fun for those of you that are interested in that kind of thing. Let's thank some Patreoners. I would like to thank the Space Kitties, Jim Bov, Jada Pake, Dustin Doom, Nathan Swenson, and In Mac We Trust. And then also, just going to throw some thanks out to Mike Raleigh, Seth Vitetto, and Stephen Albrecht. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I do that right?
Albrecht. I think that's great. It's as good as I would have done.
Yeah.
I'm going to do our play of the week this week. This one is submitted by Unaligned Magi, but it is a game that involves the player Mantis. So I'm playing Soul and minding my own business. Mantis, as Ghost of Creus, is on the other side of the galaxy at 8 points. We all know he can't score the 2-point objective, but he has a secret in hand, and I'm currently holding the Shard of the Throne. This is the agenda that grants 1 point to the person who holds it, and if you win a combat against that person, you steal the point. We are all trying to figure out his plan to get his secret and how he will hold on to the Shard. He can't outstall the rest of us, so we know if he's going to make his move, it'll have to be when we still have a chance to react and take the shard back. Mantis realizes this as well. He activates a system next to my home system, plays a flank speed, and sends everything except for what's in his home system. And I do mean everything. Every single infantry, every single ship. He completely empties his entire pie slice, moving about 8 ships through his flagship's wormhole from the other end where a normal home system would be. Being way over fleet supply, he must destroy 4 of his ships, and then he must lose most of his infantry. He crushes my paltry fleet in the system and takes the shard, getting to 9 points. But he doesn't land on the planets, just so he doesn't risk losing a single battle. None of us can reach his home system, and with his entire pie slice emptied, we can't win a battle unless we defeat a flagship and 3 dreadnoughts with a fighter screen. One of the other players tries and fails, and at the end of the game, we find that his last secret objective was to be next to another player's home system, and this was the only system he could reach that would score it.
That's so crazy.
So good. I love how many more of these like brain bender plays of the week we've been getting recently.
Right.
Of like the player has this problem of like I'm gonna get the shard, but how do I prevent myself from losing it? Oh, I know how to do that. Have nothing left.
Right.
Just have no more ships left, and then you can't lose the Shard of the Throne.
Right.
It's easy.
Right. It's like, it reminds me of that time we had an Arborec player take all of the command counters out of fleet supply for himself so that he had no ships anywhere. So you would have to invade a planet in order to take it from him.
And every planet had like 12 ground forces.
Yeah. It was Arborec. So
Yeah.
That's nuts. I think also that play in general, I think we have disseminated that play a little more, and I feel like we will see more of that. Like kind of, I've got everything figured out. I should just destroy all the things I don't need. Basically.
Yeah. Hearing people talk on the Discord, I think Paul was sharing this same story on the Discord, and this is not like even close to the first time this has happened for a lot of players. This has, I think, become somewhat of a common play on Tabletop Simulator, and in that community, people just realize like, okay, when Shard of the Throne hits, your last play is truly your last play of the game.
Right.
You make a point to. That's it.
Right.
Swan song.
Right. You can't leave anything for anybody to take from you, because then that'll be it. Well, cool.
Well, it's sleepy time for me.
Yeah, Matt's sleepy.
I'm going to go have a turkey coma, and hopefully I don't die in Turkey Town.
No, you won't. This is what a weird episode this has been.
This has been weird.
This has been a weird one. Yeah.
I hope everyone was able to at least look at that map, or it made sense to play along while we talked about images.
Right. I wonder how much it made sense. It might not have made any. I'm actually getting a very strong feeling that maybe this episode made no sense whatsoever.
I'll say this much. It's always going to be better than the flagship episode.
No, it won't.
I feel all right.
No, it won't. Can you hear me rolling I'm rolling dice. Do you hear it? Do you hear it?
Yeah. I have to go. I'm turning the podcast off. You can't be trusted.
I'm rolling dice. It's fun. I'm having fun. I'm having fun because I'm rolling dice. Look at all the dice I'm rolling. Well, you can't see it, but look. Yeah. Welcome to Hunter's Dice Zone. I'm gonna roll a d20. Let's see what comes up. All right, it was a 10. I'm gonna roll it again one more time. All right, now it was a 2. I guess I could roll like a different die. I'm gonna roll a 6-sided die this time. All right, watch me.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles, and thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.